Good morning, world. I'm Matt, and today we have a very special event. It's the Patriot Party's very first interview with a live guest. Today we have Mr. Erik Holt with us. He's a real American hero who is experiencing political corruption, government overreach, violation of his constitutional rights, a broken justice system, and much, much more. Y'all guys and gals can expect to hear a heart-wrenching story about a single father who has given his life to public service only to have the government turn back around and screw him and his family to the hilt and persecute him. What I would ask is if that you're not going to have enough time to listen to the podcast in its whole, in its totality, that you at least take the time to click on the description and read the information. It's not a lot. It's not long. It'll take you like 3 or 4 minutes. And then click on his links and see what he's talking about, because he's got the proof. He has got everything laid out. I mean, he has got it laid out. Everything's transparent. All this proof of political corruption, it's transparent. And he's run into a bit of a brick wall that I think we as patriots may be able to come together and help him with. So I do ask, if you are not going to be able to listen to the complete show, please take the time to click on the description, read his story, which is short. I mean, I compressed it because I know we're all short on time. And click through to his links just to take a look and see what you can do to help. Thank you so much, and let's get into the interview. Okay, now let's give a warm welcome to Erik Holt. Erik, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, first of all. My name is Erik Holt, as you mentioned. I like to just sort of identify myself as a patriot, a veteran, first responder, former fire chief, and I work at the county level running emergency services for the county I live in. I'm a single dad with 2 teenage daughters and just, trying to be a good citizen of this country.
Well, I can understand that. I can relate with that. At a point in my life, I was a single father. I'm no longer, but definitely running around as a father, doing a lot of things. That's what I've been doing today, getting my little girl ready for church camp. So you said you were a veteran. How long were you in the service?
I did 5 years active, Army.
Oh, okay. I've got a lot of family that was in the Army. So let me ask you this. What started you down the path of public service?
Oh, man. Growing up, I was, just like a rowdy teenager like most are, but I didn't really have any direction, and was working at an old school butcher shop in my hometown, and the volunteer chief came up to me when I was like 16 years old there and said, "Hey, you ever thought about doing firefighting?" And I was like, I haven't thought past this week. I'm, a kid. And, man, what a blessed gift that was. He brought me on board after attending training. And I mean, I've never looked back since that age. So I have done public service my entire life since 16, really.
Okay. Well, that's very, very, very commendable. Very commendable. My soon-to-be wife, she actually, you mentioned being a first responder. She's a first responder. She started out as a paramedic, and then she was an ambulance driver, and then she became a nurse with her BSN, and she's getting ready to graduate in December with her nurse practitioner's license. So she's been, that's why I say I've been like full-time dad. She's been full-time school, on-call nurse, hospice nurse, and doing in-home infusions on the side. And then our daughter, she's 11 and wants to be an MMA fighter, so she's training 5 days a week, jiu-jitsu and boxing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. So, but let's get back to you. Enough about myself. So I understand that you transitioned after 18 years of government service to a fire chief. Can you take us through that transition and some of the accomplishments you made along the way?
Yeah, so I joined the Army at 18 after doing volunteer, and I was fortunate enough to get the MOS of firefighter in the Army. So I got all my training. Kind of a funny thing about the Army firefighting program, though, is you kind of just do whatever the Army needs because it's such a small MOS. So when I was in Iraq, I was in Ramadi, Iraq in 05, 06, and we did everything but firefighting. So that's kind of the one year out of that. But I got out in 2008, and I was stationed at Fort Hood then. So I just kind of was lucky enough. The chief saw some potential in me. That last bit that I was in the Army, I was at Fort Hood. And they let us work in the fire stations there as a unit. So I was hired on as a civilian. I stayed at Fort Hood until 2013. Almost 2014. It was December 2013. I transferred up to Fort Carson, Colorado, and worked there until 2022. But even though I was, 18 years tenured in, it's when I got full custody of my daughters. And so the idea of being home every night and responding from home and doing all that, because it's the community we lived in, seemed appealing, and it really seemed to fit. So I quit that job, working for the DOD as a civilian firefighter, and took the fire chief's job. It was much more of a chaotic scenario, but that's kind of the high-level view of how that transition happened.
So you were so you were working for the DOD, so you weren't like a contractor. You were actually still working, within the government. I'm correct in saying that?
Yeah, a DOD civilian. It's general schedule.
Okay. So you were like a GS, like whatever rank the GS is, or was it something else?
Yeah, GS, general schedule employment. So
Okay. I'm familiar with that. And then, if I'm not mistaken, it's almost like when you went in as the fire chief, you were kind of like the CEO of a company. And if I'm not mistaken, when I was reading about you, you actually grew, we'll call it a company, or the fire station from 5 to 60 in a year.
Yeah, I mean, like I quickly breezed over. I took over from in the middle of chaos. So I got initially a call from a board member that said, "Hey, can you be an interim for me for a couple of weeks? There's a lot going on. I'm the only board member left." And what had happened is the chief before me had gotten into some troubles, I'll say.
Okay.
And as part of that, there was 3 board members that resigned, kind of due to that situation. And so what was supposed to be a 2-week thing turned into 5 months of being an interim chief. And I was just using my leave. So my chief at the time was like, "Yeah, that's fine. Burn your leave off and do your thing." And so I had expended all my leave, but I was having success in the position as interim. And by this point, obviously the permanent position came available, and I just sort of bet on myself. I quit DOD service at Fort Carson, and I just said, I guess I'm going to go for this, and after 5 months, I felt pretty confident. I mean, let's be honest, when you're in the job, you have an advantage, right? And so
absolutely.
I just felt confident in it. I took it, and then September of 2022, I received the full position and signed my contract. And at that point, I had already recruited quite a bit, but I had laid the foundation, is what I'll say. And from the moment that they signed that contract with me to be the permanent, I just rebranded the department entirely. I felt it was necessary given kind of the history there, what had happened. And
stigma?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Great. And just I put a big, bold mural on the wall, and I thought we had a building up above the main highway that kind of cuts through the mountains up there in Colorado.
Uh-huh.
And I looked at that one day going home and I said, that's how I'm going to unveil like a new logo. And I did a super patriotic mural with 2 firefighters on it, and at the center of it, the new logo. And man, we got to work. I mean, we kicked butt. It was really a beautiful thing. I had the right people, the right culture. And, you know, as a leader, you kind of set your vision and you let them take over, and they accomplish so much more than I ever thought or dreamt of, you know. Once you empower people for the right reasons, it takes off. It's like, you know, not a cliche thing, but...
No, I understand. I mean, everything's about, you know, building a foundation of concrete, not on sand. You know, I've been an entrepreneur for going on 25 years, and it's all about building a strong foundation. And that's what it sounds like that you did, you know, and that's very commendable. Very commendable. You know, it sounds like you would be very well suited, you know, to build a business. But I'm a little confused. So I got a question. So, you know, it says that you did 18 years of government service, and I'm guessing this includes the DOD. And then you went into the fire chief. So, but it also, you mentioned about getting full custody of your daughters and being able to spend more time with them. So, did that happen after you left the DOD, or did that happen before you left the DOD?
Technically, the custody thing happened before I left.
Okay. You know, so that wasn't a reason to leave. I was trying to get that straight in my head. And to the listeners, that wasn't a reason that you left the DOD. It didn't have anything to do with the decision.
It did. I mean, so when I was DOD, I was working 48-hour shifts. And so,
okay,
you know, I'd be at the fire station away. We lived up the mountain, so it was 30 minutes away from home.
Okay.
So in order to, like, I had a really good life, man. I had great crew. The boys and the ladies there that I worked with were amazing. Like, great culture, great place to work.
51 hours with travel time, or 52 hours, that's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, that's firefighting shifts. You know, they're 24 to 48 hours. So
okay.
You live half your life there. I worked 72 hours a week. So in transitioning to the fire chief's position, although I worked a ton of hours and would respond to calls around the clock, I did it from my home, basically. So I would work, you know, a normal 8-hour day at the station, and then any emergency calls for service, I would be responding from home in my command vehicle. So, you know, it was just a different style of performing the same sort of work, but different location, more access, you know, to being at home with the kids.
I mean, I can relate, not through me because my businesses are at home, and we're lucky for that. But I can relate with my fiance, you know, with her schedule as, you know, being on call versus when she gets her nurse practitioner working 8 to 5. You know, that's I can definitely relate with that. So my next question, it's my understanding that the next chapter of your life held some very unpleasant experiences. When I was reading through things, what I read into it was government overreach, political corruption, constitutional violations, banking policy and federal law violations, and dealing with a broken justice system. Could you please add some context to all of this for me and for all the listeners?
Absolutely. So, yeah, this is the meat of the story that I'm sharing is, like I mentioned, September of 2022, I signed the contract to be the fire chief of the district, knowing that May, so 8 months later, would be district elections for the board of directors. So, okay. Because of the situation that I came into and I took over, the next election cycle would be for all 5 positions of the board of directors. Okay. Which is not a tough on anything. Like any company or any district or government body tries to avoid a complete turnover because it usually comes with some chaos, right?
Absolutely.
So, like I said, I mean, we had amazing success. It was more than, you know, anyone could have expected. We far exceeded what the strategic plan that we laid out was. I had a good board of directors. I worked well with them, which now in kind of the story becomes the second board of directors that I worked for in this short span of time. So coming into the elections in May, so like March, April, somewhere in there, we had like a huge wildland fire that basically threatened all of our town. We had like 80-mile-an-hour winds, 1,500 acres, like pushing it right down on our town there. And our folks like kicked butt. Let me tell you, like they did everything at the highest level. No homes were lost in our area.
Wow.
It was just an amazing, like all the pieces came together, and I watched it as a leader. And then we even had like an all-female crew that went on Facebook, this page called Women in Fire, highlighted them, and it went viral, applauds for these ladies all across the country. And so I was at a real proud moment. And then the very end of April, I think like April 30th, so like a week before the elections took place, we held this thing that I had dreamt up when I took the job and pitched it to the board. We're going to call it a family fire muster. And it's going to be a fundraising thing, but it's for the community. So we're going to have competitions for kids. We're going to have a barbecue style thing with a live band, and the whole feel of it was just a community fellowship event that was akin to like a 4th of July barbecue, and it was the most successful fundraising event in the history of the department. We made, I think, $27,000 in that one day fundraising.
Wow.
Yeah, the prior record that I could find on, in the files and records was 8,000. So,
jeez, that's what that's 300% plus 350%. Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, and if you ever do any public event, like when you have hundreds of people out there, it's a huge success. And we had just bought a new light rescue vehicle and some Jaws of Life, so like the stuff that we cut people out of cars with when they get in a wreck. And we were doing a live demonstration of that, and we had the medevac chopper come land at the station. We did this whole thing live for everybody to watch. It's kind of like, hey, thank you for supporting us. Thanks for your donations and, your tax contributions. This is what we bought with it and what we can do. And right as we ended that, a real world one came in just down the road. So a guy had like launched off the road, landed on the hood of his car. We had to literally stop the exercise, that we were doing for the community as a show and say, hey, we've got to go respond to this for real. And we did. And we the crews just knocked it a home run, right? Like they had him cut out flawlessly on the helicopter within minutes. And the guy was released the next day, came by the station, was like, you guys were amazing. Thank you. So everything leading into this election is in a huge positive, right?
Absolutely. And the way it sounds is y'all were showing 100% transparency by letting them know where their money was going.
Yeah, and that's the way I looked at it. But the election was super contentious. Okay. So there was like 10 candidates. Can
I ask a question? I don't mean to interrupt you, but I want to ask a question just to lay some context in, because something comes to mind and I don't know if it was even an issue. So okay. I'm guessing this was a smaller town.
Yeah, so 5,500 residents, over 66 square miles. Pretty rural mountain town.
Rural mountain town. So, was it predominantly Republican or Democrat?
That's a good question, because most would identify as Republican.
Okay, so it was a red town.
The town historically is, yes. Now the countering party, I would say Rhino at most, right? Like, okay. There's no way that their ideals align with anything that they would say. But, it became sort of like this woke mob doxing election. It was
okay. That's the groundwork I wanted to lay, because I kind of see something happening in my mind's eye. I'm kind of connecting some dots, I think. But go ahead. A contentious election. Let's go ahead with that.
Yeah, so it had been for a few months, and the what would become the problem party here. Basically, they lie about everything they do, and you're like, no, we're doing it right in front of the community. Like, anybody can come in.
It's transparent.
Yeah.
They don't like that.
They're like, you guys don't have the people you say. And I'm like, because of course in my reports I would brag on, hey, we added this many recruits and this many people went and got certified and trained. The pace at which people were becoming qualified, like at the professional level of firefighting, was blistering speed. And
Colorado in general is a blue state.
It is not in that area.
So when you told me you put up this patriotic logo, I'm thinking to myself, that's the first question in my mind: is this going to be, how are people receiving this? Are they receptive to it or not? When you said they were receptive, I'm asking myself, okay, well, this is a question I got to ask. Okay, so
this bureau comes up later for sure, but it was well received. There was, of course, so. The area that I'm talking about where I lived was kind of between Breckenridge and Colorado Springs. And so what you had in the last decade was a lot of Bay Area folks from California selling their homes off and moving to quintessential mountain.
See, that's what's happened in Dallas. I'm in Louisiana, the top northern Louisiana. We're only a couple hours from Dallas. And Dallas has gone blue because of people from California moving there. Dallas, Austin, Texas was a red state. It's gone blue. Well, not Texas as a whole, but definitely some of the bigger cities. So
I used to be down there.
Yep. So I understand exactly what you're saying. When I understand, but go ahead. I don't mean to keep interrupting you. I apologize.
Well, no, I think that is important. I mean, like for 30 years, there wasn't a left-leaning candidate in the county that I lived in.
Okay.
Now, as gerrymandering happens, like our county kind of got sucked into the lower Denver County somehow. And it's quite a bit distant. You're talking like a little sliver through the mountains to connect the two.
I can't stand that gerrymandering.
Yeah. So what I'm getting at is in my time that I spent in Colorado, it changed quite drastically where some of the sort of doxing and the outcries of like this is lies and and then the people that can't objectively look at something and it's comical to me, but like this what I started mentioning, like, oh, you're lying about how many people you have in a meeting where the people are there, right? So it's like, well, what are you looking at? Like it's objectively in your face that just because somebody told you we're lying or it's not transparent, like you can see it, so you should have some logical ability to think. And that stuff stopped happening. And it was frustrating. I definitely lost my professionalism at times, like dealing with that stuff.
It's hard to hold. Sometimes people press the buttons of something that you've been so passionate about and built from the ground up. It's hard to compartmentalize growing up and being trained in the law myself. You don't want to lose your temper, but it is hard sometimes to hold it in. I understand, especially when you feel disrespected and you feel like people were disrespecting your hard work.
Yeah, one of the things that I could right off the top of my head was, like, oh, you get paid too much money and you're not qualified. And I'm like,
what?
Well, yeah, like in firefighting, I am like extremely, and that's not like a bragging thing. I did it for 22 years, so I should be extremely qualified.
That's almost a quarter century.
Yeah, so I have like every qualification and certification that you can in like rescue and structural municipal firefighting. I have a bachelor's degree. I went to Cornell to get an executive leadership credential through them. So like I can compete with most
anyone.
Yeah.
Wow.
So like to be hearing that, and it's like, well, do you understand what the qualifications are? And they would be like, no, and we know that you're lying and you're not qualified. And I'd be like, okay,
you're literally qualified for a big city.
Yeah. So it is what it is, right? Like you just kind of have to. But I, in hindsight, definitely did I get rude and obtuse with some of these folks? Yeah, because I just didn't know how to talk to them.
Hindsight's always 20/20. I got a question to ask real quick. So these 5 people that are running in this contentious election, are they kind of woke, or are they rhinos, or is it mixed, or how is this? How are they falling as far as like on the party side?
So it was mixed. I mean, you definitely had. There was two people that are like extremely left and like super Biden folks back in 2023. So you had that, and then you had the guys that claimed that they were conservative, and two were veterans. So I think it was mixed. I think party lines wasn't how they came together. It was more of like homeowners association groups that connected them, I guess.
Okay.
And then like there is a little social club out there that was kind of the center point of this. They had a problem with me, so they did like fire mitigation volunteer work, but they were doing like illegal burns, and I had to shut them down. So like
there were some sour grapes there.
Yeah. State law says like you can burn an 8x8 pile on a burn permit, and these people were burning like 300-400 foot long snake pits, they call them.
Oh my God!
So I had my job by the law of
that
I have to follow.
Yeah. And they wanted you to look the other way, and that's the reason that they don't like transparency.
Right.
They like working in the shadows and people that look the other way.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it was just weird from the beginning because they started their campaign as a combined 5, not independent candidates. So
really?
They kind of ran from the beginning of you vote for one of us, you vote for all 5. Which wasn't a bad idea. It's just not the norm. Like, because it guaranteed them control of the board is what it really did, right?
Well, but that's kind of, I mean, if I'm looking at that from the outside looking in, like if I'm not in the situation, and I always tell my daughter when she's competing and things like that, you can't think clearly if your mind is clouded with emotion. So if I'm looking at that completely unbiased from the outside, that is a formula for corruption. Because it allows them, I mean, if you get one, you get all. Well, if one's corrupt, then we're all corrupt.
I didn't think of it beforehand, but yeah, that is, and when I tell the rest of the story, I think that'll confirm you.
Yeah, that's why you want independent people that come in, because each one is coming in with, hopefully, they do come in, where they've had people donate to their campaigns, and they're not supposed to be loyal to those people, but sometimes a lot of times we face, dirty politicians, but that's why they should come in as individuals, but by coming in as 5, they all might be loyal to, specific. I don't like that at all. That just sounds, that sounds like that violates election laws. Like, I don't even understand how 5 people can come in as one, as a team. That's like saying the House of, the House of Representatives, we're going to do it statewide. We're going to combine all the, all the areas of the state, and instead of representative for each area, if you vote for one, you vote for all for the whole state. You don't do that.
Yeah, and just to clarify, like, they ran as a team, but you had to vote for each one individually, of course.
I understand that, but you're running as a team I just see that as a formula for corruption. I don't like that at all.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it back then. What I didn't like is it didn't seem like their intentions were to continue the building of a fire department, and the fire department in and of itself wasn't the central point for them. It was very weird. Their entire campaign stuff was to sort of promote this social club volunteer group. And so, and that was where the contentiousness was. And so, they pulled me in real hard, and I would have to, step back and say, hey, I'm not a candidate. Like, I'm not here to debate you guys. I'm the fire chief. I'm contracted to do a job for the district. And you guys making it, like, very personal against me is very misguided, because I don't think you guys even understand how the governance of a fire department works. Is really, and I had to call one of the guys. His name's Paul Del Toro, and he would become the board president in this story. But he posted that I was some misogynistic, like, authoritative leader, and I called him and I said, you need to leave me out of your campaign. First of all, I'm a single dad of 2 daughters, so calling me misogynistic is kind of a
oxymoron. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. But I do, and I hate to keep interrupting you, but you're saying things that just they keep just bringing up things in my mind, because I report on news all the time, and the DHS is shutting down a department. I forget what it's called, but it's a community outreach to try to basically call out domestic terrorists. But it was being used to funnel money, and basically it was being used for fraud. And so when you tell me that these vote for one, vote for five, vote for all, and then they're promoting social clubs instead of first responders, this almost sounds to me like a mini version of what was happening on the federal level, where they were promoting and setting up and getting people like you out who wanted to be transparent and who were upfront and real people, real patriots. They want to get them out of the way, and they basically want to set up a some sort of malicious, nefarious a group that could funnel money from the county. That's the way it sounds to me.
There's probably some truth to that, and I think as we continue to develop into the story, you'll see some of that align for sure.
Okay, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. I just, when you say stuff, it kind of, I have what I call popcorn thoughts, and if I don't say them when I think about them, I'll forget them.
Hey, no, this is a great conversation, honestly. So, and how the question started was leading up to this election. So May 2nd, 2023 was the elections, and the day of it, right? So the board hired, because it was so contentious, a designated election official who was from the law firm that represented the fire district. So every district has an attorney, it protects the liability, right? If one of our fire trucks crashes, the lawyer protects the liability, and then obviously with insurance. So
shouldn't somebody have been hired from, way out, not in the area, so they couldn't be tied to this election, like from way out of the area, so they don't owe their allegiance to anybody in this county?
So that's a great point, and that is what it was. So you've got the DEO and the law firm is, I think, 3 hours away, right? A whole different part of the state is where they are. So this is definitely somebody that doesn't know anybody in the county that we're at. The board, the incumbent board, the one that I worked for, made a decision to hire, and then they also hired a deputy DEO, and so their job is to ensure that all of the legal steps happen in an election and to administer it. And so they come on site because of all the contentiousness as well. Me and that designated election official met the night before. I gave her access to the fire station where the election was held at. That was the polling location. And we just agreed, I'm around if you need anything, but I will not be working from the station because of how contentious this has been. And so I wasn't on site at all. This is going to become very important to that as we talk about the 10th Circuit stuff. But I end up at the fire station because a gentleman in the, we still got to respond to 911 calls, right? So gentleman had called 911 en route to, get to the hospital. He goes into cardiac arrest. And so it becomes a CPR call.
Okay.
I respond, to the call, but then I leave the call to go establish a medevac so you get the helicopter to come transport him.
Okay.
Which is at the station. So I have to go to the station, kind of shut down the parking lot, land the helicopter. The ambulance arrives. We're doing CPR. Unfortunately, the gentleman doesn't make it. So that takes some time, right? that's a 45-minute process of doing CPR, paramedics administering drugs, doing everything we can, in essence, to get this guy to live. It doesn't work. So I now have to leave my command vehicle there, and me and the paramedic and I think their lieutenant take their vehicle, and we go to the house to notify the family that this gentleman has passed. It's a terrible part of the job, but that's what you do as a fire chief when you're in a small community, is try to comfort loved ones. So when I come back from that unfortunate situation to pick up my command vehicle, it's probably halfway through the day and the election has been taking place. And somebody comes up to me and they go, "Hey, I need to report something." And I'm like, what's going on? And she said, "Hey, I just walked out and heard the poll watcher on her phone walking on station say, 'Hey, did you pay them already? What vehicle are they driving?'" And then showed me a picture of the poll watcher within the electioneering box, right? If you've ever been to a polling location, usually 100, 150 feet around is the perimeter where there's no electioneering allowed.
Okay.
And so, like, the poll watcher, who's supposed to be inside observing the election, is out on her cell phone within and, like, standing kind of blatantly at the cone that marks that perimeter. And so I go, "Hey, well, let me take you into the designated election official. That's who you're supposed to make a complaint to." And then I had to stop a couple more times throughout the day. I think I was there a total of 3 times for like a minute or two here and there, like to get medical supplies or that call that I just mentioned. And so at the end of the day, the first kind of wonky thing was the poll watchers posted the election results before the election was official. So, like, before the polls closed, no, I'm not talking hours, but 10, 15 minutes before, they're posting the results, which is illegal to do that. But, at least you can be like, okay, well, they're there. They heard something. They posted about it. Is it kosher? No. Is it a grave,
kind of a gray area?
Yeah. So, that one was kind of like, whatever. So after they post the official results, the non-incumbents win. These 5 people that I mentioned.
Yeah, 1 for 5.
Yeah, they called themselves the 5. So all 5 of them win. I go to meet the DEO and lock up the station, of course. And she just kind of was like, "Man, what a crazy day." Just kind of like, you ever just been around somebody after they're taking that deep breath of exhaustion?
Yes.
It wasn't like a real deep conversation. It was just kind of in passing, and she was just kind of having that exhale moment because everybody was gone. And so, I was like, "Oh, let's, I bet, it's been chaotic for months." And she's like, "No," and just kind of and I'm like, "All right, well, are you good? Drive safe." She's got a 2-3 hour drive home. And so that day ends, and now, that's the first time I know I'll be working for a new board, right? All 5 of them. And I've described this to others, I didn't really care because my job was to be the fire chief. And so I wasn't loyal to one candidate or the other. I have now worked for 2 boards up until this point and had great success.
You're not a politician.
Right. I'm pretty confident I could work for a 3rd, right? So
yeah.
It's a small town again. So the next day, somebody else had I don't know if it was just in passing, I saw them or they called me. It's been a couple years now, so it's hard to remember. But somebody else goes, "Hey, what the F, And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And they're like, "I went into to cast my ballot and I was being filmed." And I was like, "What are you talking about? By who?" And he's like, "The poll watchers, And I'm like, "That can't be. That's not allowed. They can't film you." And he's like, "No, absolutely." And so I called the attorney that represents the district that I had mentioned. And that attorney employs who was the designated election official. And I just was like, "Hey, I'm hearing weird things, And she's like, "Yeah, I talked to so-and-so, the DEO, and there's some weird stuff, Eric."
What would the purpose of filming someone be? I just can't. What would that What would that lead to? I'm just sitting here kind of at a loss for that. What would they do with that?
I think it's just more of a voter intimidation thing.
Yeah, okay. So they're trying to intimidate.
Yeah, I think the play there was like, and maybe it'll make sense as I get a little further into this, but like, okay. I think it was, we know who you voted for and who you didn't, and we got you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you.
And so, like, this conversation happens with the attorney, and this is a trusted, like, attorney that I can talk to. And it's just like, this isn't good. Like, there's just weird things here. And the vote totals were crazy, way astronomical for any history of the surrounding area for voter turnout.
Really?
Yeah, like.
So we're talking about ballot stuffing here, is what we're talking about.
No, I mean, did I think that? Yes, because the Five had also went on this campaign for absentee ballots and like kind of got reprimanded by the states for it.
Yeah, there was a lot of fraud in the absentee ballots and I understand. Did they actually get to have absentee ballots, or were they not allowed?
So there was allowed,
okay.
But it wasn't much of a turnout on absentee, from my memory. That definitely isn't what turns this. But so like a bigger district near us had like 80 to 100 people that would vote for one candidate, and that would be enough to carry like somebody to election. This is a local fire department special election. Like, most communities aren't super worried about their fire departments, right? So you get a very low turnout of voters. And so knowing that, when you see almost 400 votes for one candidate, you're like, wait a minute, like,
yeah, there's something off there.
Yeah, and then all five candidates being within 5% on vote totals is another kind of statistical impossibility.
I mean, I don't believe in coincidences, so yeah.
Right, they don't happen in nature. Most
No.
So this is all like leading me to. I talk about this period of time, and when I go on I make long form videos talking about these things that are about 10 minutes long on my Facebook and my TikTok. And so when I'm going through this couple day period, like, I talk about this moral dilemma I have, and it's like I'm a veteran. Like, I went to war for what I believe in this country and the Constitution and our rights and all that, and protecting democracy. And so but it's very apparent, man. Like, if anybody's ever been in this sort of like, what do I do moment, my best interest was to just shut up and not worry about it. Because these 5 people that have been declared the winners are my bosses, right?
But you took an oath to protect and defend, foreign and domestic. Yeah. And you sound like a pretty stand-up guy, so it's not within your nature just to lay down and let it ride. I mean, that's at least that's what I'm gathering.
Yeah, and so and to drive that home, like, I want to be completely transparent with everybody that hears my story. Is like, it was a conscious choice that I had to make, because for like 2 to 3 days, man, I battled like, man, you're a single dad. This is your livelihood. Like, shut up. Don't worry about it. But the burning feeling in my stomach was like, something's not right here. And in my videos, I talk about it pretty honestly. Like, I just was laying in bed one night and I go, literally to myself, I'm like, if I look into something and I find it, I can't turn away from it. And so it's full commit if I decide to do it. And then in that night, I said, I'm going to look.
Let me ask you something. Let me just, I'm going to play, not a devil's advocate, but just try to put out a different scenario and ask, did this even go through your mind? And would it have worked? So you're laying there and you're thinking, I can't let this go. I can't let this go. So what if you got all this evidence together and you got it to the media as an anonymous source? They publish it, and the DA has no choice, because now he's got pressure from his constituents to look into it, but you're not in the mix.
Well, part of that I did do.
Okay.
Whether I tried. So, yeah, I mean, I'm about to get to that, actually. So, yeah.
Okay. I don't mean to be skipping ahead. I'm just thinking to myself, like, what about that? Would that have worked and not put you in the aim of firing squad?
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, 100%. Like, there was no way that I wouldn't have ended up in it.
Well, they may have had it out for you to start with, just because of the burn piles and the patriotic, and it could have been. You don't know if you were going to have a job either way.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I wasn't loyal to any candidate. I was loyal to my job and the firefighters, and I thought that we had done enough that it wouldn't really come into play. Like I wasn't in fear of my job at this point, but in being honest, I have to let people know this wasn't a happenstance thing. Like, I literally knew my best bet was to just shut up and not look into things and just continue to do my job, as I know how to do. But I didn't. And so I lay there and I make a decision and I say, like, I'm going to, because it means more to me that our country and our Constitution and our democratic processes are protected than it is for this job, right? Like, it's a greater thing than me.
It's larger than you. Yes, I understand that completely.
Yeah. So, and remember, in 2023, like, this isn't a comfortable topic, especially in Colorado. We're not all the way out of all the 2020 election talk, right?
Well, we're not even. I mean, heck, Colorado was one of the first places where cancel culture started, where they shut down that a Christian bakery, if I remember correctly. Yeah. They boycotted it because they refused, because it was against their religion, to bake a cake for a gay couple getting married. But yet, if they went down the road to a Muslim bakery, they wouldn't have boycotted that one. I remember Colorado around that time. It was the whole state was rather contentious.
Yeah, Colorado is definitely at the forefront of the battle between red and blue, 100%. And it is very contentious that way. And in 2023, it wasn't taken lightly to say, like, hey, there's some election improprieties here. It was really hard to get really anything. Like, their laws suck so bad. I mean, it's just, their laws are set up to be corrupt in Colorado. I don't live there now. I'm not afraid to say it, like, at every level. So I know the battle going in, but once I make this decision, this is where it comes into play. And I'm going to, if we have time, I'll circle back to the 10th Circuit appeal here. But it comes into play pretty heavily, because the next day I go after work. So everybody understands, like, I worked like 7, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day. And then after those hours, I went to Walmart, I bought a thumb drive, and I go to this third-party vendor, which is a company the board had hired to run. Initially, they installed it, but then they maintained it. They had the servers, and they did all of our, like, IT normal work, set up emails, data management, all that. But part of their contract was to operate the security system that they had installed. So I go to them with the thumb drive, which was a huge file size, like 250 gigabytes or something like that. Okay. But I say, hey, I need the footage from these cameras at this, at the fire station on this day, which was May 2nd, from like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Okay. And they're like, okay. And like, they know who I am, but like, I'm not there as the fire chief. Like, this is a government funded, like, or tax funded building. Like, it's public, right? So anybody could walk into this vendor and say, hey, like, I want this and I'm going to pay for it. And so I do that. They call me the next day and they're like, hey, you can come pick it up. This is how much it is. So I do, again, off work. And I go home, and when I talk about this, it's like, man, I didn't even know what I was looking for. So, like, I made my girl dinner, like we hung out. I did every other thing in life that I needed to do that night before I was like, all right, let's pop the thumb drive in the computer. And I didn't know what to look for. So what I did is I went on and printed off the election statutes for Colorado, special district specifically. So it's like revised statute 1505-08 or something is the election code, if my memory serves right. And I just read it. I'm like, okay, here's the rules of elections. So now if I see something, maybe that'll cue me. So I literally did. I've got 40 hours worth of footage. So
absolutely.
I just started watching it. Camera 1 was in the fire station where the polling location was, and it was right above the poll watchers. And then camera 2 was outside above the door, facing the parking lot in that electioneering box. So those are the 2 main cameras I got to watch. And so I literally have the printout of the rules, and the poll watcher rules is another, I think it's called Rule 8. And it has 15 or 16 very specific rules. And without having that in front of me right now for your listeners, it's no electronic devices, no recording of information, no counting of ballots, no voter intimidation, no impeding in the election process, right? Okay. So it spells all these out. And so I start watching it, and the first thing that jumps out is, well, really 2 things. One, they keep showing each other stuff that they're holding in their hands, and they would nod to voters, or voters would point at them or nod at them, and they would do an action with their hand. And I thought that was weird, but I couldn't see what it was. And then the second thing that jumped out was these poll watchers are supposed to basically sit at a table in a cordoned off area and just sit there quietly and observe, right? Mm-hmm. These folks are on their phones basically the whole time, and then they're kind of in rotation. One will get up, walk out to the parking lot, come back in, sit down, and it keeps going. And I'm like, this is more than a pee break or a water break. This is every other minute somebody's leaving the poll watcher's location and going out to the parking lot.
Now, did you have access to a camera outside, or was there no camera outside?
Yeah, I had one. So the one that faced the parking lot on the outside of the station actually had audio. The one in the station didn't. So it's just video. So when I finally catch a frame in the inside camera, and it's directly looking at the poll watcher's table. And if you go to my Justice for Holt, and I'll actually text you a link later so you can watch the specific when I make the video and I show these screenshots. Okay. But I finally catch what they have in their hand, and I'm like, oh, I've seen those before. And they're track counters. You ever had those little handheld things where you click the button and it just counts 1 to, however many?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So I catch that image, and I, of course, pull out my phone and I look one up, and I'm like, yeah, that's it. And so 4 of them had this. And then I started looking at okay, when are they doing this action with their hand? Well, it's when somebody leaving the poll, the partition, is walking out. They'll nod at them. They'll make,
a gesture. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they would click, and I was like, oh, they know how to count these votes. That's illegal. It's right here on the rules.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that doesn't really explain the whole thing going on here. And so, like I mentioned, the one on the outside has audio. And so I decide, let me follow. When that lady had given me the picture, that day of the election, when I was leaving that CPR call, I go, oh, I remember what time that was. Let me look at the time frame and see that interaction. And so it led me to a certain time. And I go to that, and sure as can be, man, I can watch her get up from the polling location or the poll watcher's table, walk outside on her cell phone, and then I can actually hear the conversation as she enters the outside. And she's asking for a vehicle description and is looking for people. And then as I continue to watch, she's greeting people, so voters, greeting people in the election box and telling them the names of who to vote for.
And you get that on audio?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man, that's, oh, man, case closed.
You would think, yeah. So this is high-def 4K cameras, too. So I watch throughout the day, and this is what they're doing. They're getting up. They're meeting somebody that they know a description of, greeting them in the election box, telling them names. That person would go in and vote. And then when they would vote, they would make the gesture. They would count that vote. But that's only half of it. So what I sort of ascertained from all of that is somebody's off-site incentivizing people to come vote for specific things and telling them, this person will meet you in the parking lot and tell you the names.
I was just getting ready to say, it's a shame you couldn't see a money, something passing, like I know in some areas they call it like a $10 or $20 bill passing. They're going and picking up homeless people and stuff and giving them 10 or 20 bucks to vote for a certain person.
Yeah, like I don't get to see that side, and my hope was that law enforcement would, but I digress and we'll continue because there was an incentive. There was incentive, like clearly.
Oh, absolutely.
You don't come to a polling location and be greeted by somebody who tells you who to vote for, then you do it and leave. So that clearly happens. And then the magic sort of moment on the tapes is one of the candidates and three of the poll watchers. So later in the afternoon, the election officials would go to the ballot counting room, and two poll watchers would go with to observe, right? Mm-hmm. So one count had been finished, so two poll watchers were walking back to the polling location. It was a different building just up the road, or just up the hill. And one other poll watcher was that lady I mentioned who was on her phone, and one of the candidates. And they all decided to meet directly under the camera, so they couldn't have picked a better spot. And so literally the candidate is like, oh, I don't want you to tell me, but how are we looking? You know, and they're like, oh, you'll sleep real good tonight. And that in and of itself is pretty
illegal.
Yeah. But the lady finishes her phone call, and she is talking to the person who is her husband, who's the person off-site. And she goes, oh, so-and-so said, as long as we're under 800 votes, we've won. And they all kind of chuckle. And then one of the poll watchers is like, oh, yeah, so when we're in the ballot counting room, I've got this track counter in my hand, and every time they say at least three of your guys' names, I click it. And so I know we're well ahead right now. You're in good shape. And I'm like, well, that's the home run, man. We're good, you know? And so when I didn't know all the moving pieces at this time, but the attorney for the district that I had spoke to had contacted the DA's office and reported the stuff she knew. And she didn't know what I knew, right? And so I called the DA, and I'm very naive at this point. Like, I do firefighting. So I call it. I'm like, hey, can I talk to the DA? And they're like, no, who are you and what do you want, you know? And I'm like, I can't talk to the DA. Is it, you know, and they're like, no, we're a huge office. Like, you can't talk to the DA. What do you need? And I'm like, oh, I need to, I think I have election fraud on camera. I need to talk to somebody. So finally I get an investigator. And he goes, oh, hey, yeah, I talked to the attorney. You know, I'm holding a criminal investigation. I'm actually not the election investigator guy. My partner does that, but he's on vacation. He'll be back next week. But, you know, I want to meet with you and see what you got. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, meet me tomorrow morning before work, and I'll show it to you. So we meet, and this is a law enforcement officer, you know, so anybody that's been around a law enforcement officer, they're normal, like, fun people. We're kind of shooting the breeze for a little bit as I set up my computer and stuff, you know. And I start to show him stuff, and his body language changed. And that's when I knew. I was like, oh, this is, like, legit. Like, he's in work mode now. The shooting the breeze ended, right? And so I show him a couple of the clips, and I show him the conversation I just detailed. And he's like, hey, man, I'm going to take this. I'll be in touch. And I'm like, you know, yes, Mr. Law Enforcement Officer, have a good day. And I had answered a bunch of questions for him. He wanted to know, how far is this, you know, from the front door, which is, he's confirming that election electioneering perimeter. Who's this person? What's their name? All this stuff. So I give him all that info, and he leaves. And so the board transition hasn't happened yet. The election was May 2nd, but the board, like from the incumbent board to the new one, so everybody knows like the lame duck period. Mm-hmm. So they're not supposed to transition until May 24th. And my meeting, I think, was May 20th. So like we're getting close to that. So I let the incumbent board president know. I say, hey, I'm going to meet with this investigator. Here's what I've found. This is what the attorney has told me. And I'm keeping you in the loop here. And so her and the attorney have a conversation, and that's how the attorney ended up reaching out to the DA's office, and the incumbent board president files an injunction to the court on May 22nd, 23rd. And it basically says hey, of the belief that election fraud may have been committed, and there's a criminal investigation open. We are asking the court to have an injunction on the election results until that can go.
I understand. I know exactly what an injunction is.
Okay, so what that does in a special district is, for any public meeting, you have to post an agenda 24 hours ahead of time.
Okay.
So the Colorado statute basically read that the transition of the board would be at the next regularly scheduled meeting or 30 days after the certification of election. And so the board president posts a public agenda postponing the regular meeting until June 10th, which would have been day 30 after the election was certified.
Okay.
And the incumbents, the 5, lose their ever-loving minds. And they on social media, all sorts oh, this isn't happening. We're seizing power. We're taking over. And so
dictatorship mode.
Yeah, and it bothered me, and I can say this now, and I said it then. The term seizing power, when you're talking about a fire department, makes no sense. And it doesn't to me still to this day, and it didn't then. But they were all over social media. I've got all the screenshots and all that stuff. It was just troublesome. But on the 24th, the day that meeting was originally scheduled for, Paul Del Toro and Judy Dunn are the coming in president and vice president. And I'm leaving the station, and they pull up to me and they're like, you'll open the station tonight or else. And I'm like, I'm not doing anything until the attorney tells me, because I don't know who the board is. And so, they make some threats towards me of well, this is going to be viewed as insubordination and we're your bosses. And I'm like, okay, well, Colorado statute sort of overrules everything right now. So until an attorney that specializes in special district law tells me what I need to do, then I'll do it. And so I write a memorandum, which is a pretty pivotal one, because I reach out to her in a memorandum on a letterhead that I signed. I said, basically, I have 2 competing boards, and I don't know who is the governing body of the fire district. Me as the fire chief places us in a tough, precarious situation, and I'm fearful that it is going to affect the operations of the fire district. And there's a little bit of foreshadowing in that last sentence that I'm going to get to in a minute, but it's becoming almost impossible in the midst of this board drama and this election to run a fire department.
That's what I was just thinking, yeah.
And not only that, but the 5, the people that were declared the winners, are harassing the firefighters insanely bad. I'm getting complaints from my people that I actually supervise.
I mean, could you not get some sort of an injunction or restraining order or something?
Well, so that's an individual thing, right? If they had gone in and filed, and actually one did. I will tell you that. One did file a restraining order.
What about some sort of injunction against them and the department as a whole?
Well, they remember the board president had filed the court injunction, so that's kind of it takes a week or whatever to hit the docket, right, and be heard and all this stuff. So, like, all these things are happening, and there's an active criminal investigation against these people.
Can't you do an ex parte, which has to be heard within 10 days and supersedes anything else?
I think it was, because it did get heard by the judge pretty quick, like within a week.
Okay.
But, like, this is... that was filed like a day before these people are now saying, like, we are in power. We are now, because we got elected and it was certified, we are the board. And so, like, the pace at which they moved was purposeful, for sure. They kind of knew what they were doing in this regard. So, so May 25th, they officially, like, okay, we're in charge. And the attorney's like, look, I can't stop anything. Like, at the attorney level, the court will have to. So you've got to manage the fire department to the best of your ability.
What's the DA doing? What is the DA doing? Sitting on their hands?
They're supposed to be actively investigating. And they are at this point. But again, we're like 2 days into an investigation. So... 2
days? I thought they had to wait until it was almost 30 days when they were going to be able to do this. What's happened to make it only a couple of days?
So they came in and they literally said, we're in charge.
And wasn't there a court order in place or something in place that said they had to wait until the 24th or something?
The Colorado statute said the 24th or 30 days after, which would have June 10th would have been that 30-day mark. But they circumvented that. And so the only way that you can fight that is civil court.
How did they circumvent it, is what I want to know. How did they circumvent the Colorado statute?
They just ignored it, basically. They said, we're in charge.
Okay, but if you ignore a statute, that's like winning the presidency, but taking charge before they pass it on January 20th or whenever it is they pass it. Just saying, okay, well, I won the election, so I'm going to go ahead and take charge before it's formally passed to me. You can't do that. Like, how is that being allowed to be done? Like, it just doesn't sound right. I mean, it sounds like to me that everyone's in on it.
So this is what they actually do, is they hold their own meeting on May 24th and declare, that was the meeting. But there was no transition from the old board to the new board. The old board didn't participate in this, but there was nobody that could kind of stand in there and say, no, right? This is all being processed when they make this action. And so...
I'm sorry, I'm trying, but there was nobody that the court couldn't step in if somebody put in like an ex parte order to be heard really quick. These people have illegally taken power against the Colorado statute. Let's put some sort of injunction in place to stop this. And there's nothing that could be done in that kind of sense.
Well, not to my knowledge. So again, like, I'm not part of the board. So, like, the old board, the incumbent board before the election had filed something. I wasn't a party to it. So, like, I don't know the ins and outs. My job was to be the fire chief.
No, absolutely. I mean, you're not, your job is not to be a lawyer. It's the fire chief.
Right. And we'll get to the judge's opinion here soon. But that's what really is the basis of the story. But it only gets crazier from here. So
wow.
May 26th is like the Friday heading into Memorial Day weekend.
Okay.
So now you've got like, a 4-day weekend. I think everybody's just kind of waiting for this court thing or, the DA to do something, whatever. But I get a call from Paul Del Toro, the now proclaimed board president, right?
Okay.
And he goes, hey, I froze I just gave it away a little bit, but I recorded the phone call because at this point I'm starting to track everything. So I actually posted it on my Facebook, this recorded phone call, and he is asking day one. So May 25th, he sends me an email, and the number one item on business to be handled is the location of the security system and the passwords to get it. And I think it's funny, and I think your listeners can understand, like, if you've just won a position for a fire department board of directors seat, name your top 10 priorities. Because in my world, the security footage of the fire station is not one of those things, right? But that is Paul Del Toro's email to me, is where is the location of this security system and how do I log into it?
So he's basically wanting to go through and try to erase the evidence. Is that what I'm hearing here?
I will not accuse that, but I think that everybody's natural thing is, why would that be your number one focus?
I mean, that's the only thing that I can deduce from it is that what else would you have to do? You're not going to sit there and watch fire trucks come in and out of the entrance.
Right, and understand, for everybody out there, the board of directors is assigned to ensure that there's fiduciary responsibility to the tax funds. They have no operational capacity. That's why they have a fire chief, which at that time was me. So there would be no need for the board of directors anyways to know where the location is or how to access the security system.
So for the listeners, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's kind of like a public company has a board of directors, and their sole responsibility is the fiduciary for the shareholders, which, just to make sure that everything's good for the taxpayers basically here. And you, as the fire chief, is the CEO to make sure the fire department, which is the company, runs proficiently.
100% accurate. And even in Colorado statute, they call the fire chief a CEO.
Okay, well, there we go.
It's 100% the same way. So there is no operational need for this. But so the phone call that I record, it starts with, hey, where are we on those things I ordered? And I kind of, I hope people go onto my Justice for page and start watching these videos so they can see like the long form of all this. And what I'm doing is I'm making these videos, but I'm showing all the documents. I'm showing the security footage. I'm showing everything so that people aren't taking my word for it. They're seeing it and can make their own opinion. And I think that goes pretty far in public education of corruption here. So
there's definitely some political, whatever kind of corruption you want to call it. I was calling it political corruption, but yeah, whatever corruption you want to call it, there's definitely corruption going on.
Yeah, and I'm showing everything, like completely transparent here. So the phone call, he's like, have we turned off the cameras and the audio? And I go, there's no audio. There never has been. And so I kind of like breeze over it. And then, he asked about the emails. I told him who to call, and again, like, their misunderstanding is that they run the department. And so like, now I'm the secretary for the board. That's not my job. And so I'm kind of like redirecting what he's asking to like do it himself. And then he drops the bomb. I froze the bank account. And I'm like, you can kind of hear like, it's a little bit chaotic because there's radio traffic in the background from like somebody's responding to a call and all that. So it cuts in and out. But like when I listen to it, I can kind of hear my voice kind of cut a little bit like, okay, you what? Because in the back of my head, I'm going, how did you freeze in a bank account that you're not on authorized signatory of?
And I did a lot of research on that, and I'm going to ask you. I'm not going to ask you the question right now because you kind of haven't gotten to it yet. But I did a lot of research on banking policies and on federal laws for the bank because I do have somewhat of a legal background. I grew up in a family of lawyers. Every male in my family was a lawyer, and every woman was a teacher. So I was the only one that kind of went. And I mean, I worked in the firm and going through college, but I went into the entrepreneurial way. I mean, that's not what I got my degree in, but that's the way I went. So I do have a pretty good understanding of the law, but I'm not even going to go into that until you kind of come back around a little bit. So you keep going. So he froze the bank account. He's not a signature on the bank account. That obviously violates all sorts of banking policies. So what was your move next?
So I just asked him. I'm like, so we just paid bills. Like, is everything going to go through? And he goes, oh yeah, I have an agreement with the bank that they'll call me for every transaction I'll approve or deny. And I'm like, well, first of all, why would you have any denial of anything? But okay. And so we are heading into Memorial Day weekend, which for me as a fire chief in Colorado is probably the busiest weekend of the year.
I was going to say, it's pretty busy weekend. Grill fires, whatever, yeah.
Yeah, so we are in the location of the corridor from Colorado Springs and Interstate 25 that kind of connects Denver and Colorado Springs to the mountain. Like my backyard is Pikes Peak, which is a huge tourist location. So we get an influx of traffic, and like 3/4 of our boundary are with Forest Service. So everybody that's heading from the city up to the mountains to camp, to go sightseeing, to do everything, go to the lakes up in, the high alpine lakes, is traveling through our district. So I'm like, that's my focus. I'm a fire chief. I know I'm talking about politics stuff, but like I wasn't a politician. And so I'm in the back of my head while we're having... Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Conversation is, how in the heck am I going to manage if we get a major fire, which, mind you, we just did a couple weeks back. So it's in the forefront of my head of like, well, what if I need to buy emergency fuel? What if I need to buy emergency food? Or, all these things like racing through my head. And I just sort of like, okay, like.
So was this on a Friday that he told you this?
Friday, yeah. And he's saying.
Well, let me ask you this. At what time did he tell you this on a Friday?
Oh, like 5 in the afternoon.
Oh, so the banks were already closed.
Yeah. I mean,
he did. That was a strategic move, because all you would have had to do was look up banking policies and call the bank and threaten them, and they would have unfrozen that account.
Yeah, and there's some other wonky stuff that was discovered that I can come back to later. But like from my perspective, Friday of a holiday weekend, the guy that just said I froze the bank accounts. I'm leaving for a 4-day weekend. I won't really be available. But if you need anything, reach out. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I'm going to be drunk on a boat, passed out, but reach out. Oh, God.
Right. Yeah. So just the full storm here of like a nightmare. And mind you, like I've got some folks resigning from harassment. I've got, like, it's already hard to keep the fire department operating. And these folks are belligerent online because everybody knows of this criminal investigation now, right? And so it's kind of like two factions fighting against each other and trying to cause, I guess, as much disruption as they can. But luckily I maintain the fire department. We get through the weekend, and the same guy, Paul, is supposed to meet me Tuesday morning, the first work day after this weekend at the fire station. And he comes in, like 10 a.m., so pretty early in the day. And the reason he did is because I had reached out to him and said, I need you to sign this insurance renewal and pay this invoice. So the bill is $23,000. And the last time I talked about this, I kind of skipped over it because it is super important. So let me make sure I back this up. Like, the district bylaws state that any check that is out for payment has to be signed by 2 board members, which are also signatories on the bank account. Anything over $5,000 that is not an operational need, like if there was a fire and I needed to buy fuel, or I had already put in the budget like a specific piece of equipment that I wanted to buy, I have a cap on my expenditures of $5,000 without the board having to approve.
But none of these board members were signatories, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Then that's going to come heavy into play. But like, I want to make sure everybody understands this from the beginning of this whole part that's going to unfold. Is anything over $5,000 by policy and bylaws, I as the fire chief cannot pay.
I understand you got a cap.
Yeah, anything over that has to have a check with 2 signatures of 2 board members and be approved by a quorum vote to pay. So that is what has to happen. And oh, by the way, of course, the bank can't be froze, right?
Well, obviously not.
So he comes in May 30th, signs this form, And then I've got my training captains there at the station. Our desks are next to each other. We're chit-chatting as he walks in. And so my captain just kind of continues doing what he's doing as I am talking to Paul. And Paul signs it, and I hand him the invoice, and it's $23,000. He makes big eyes at it. And he goes, hey, email me this so that when I go home, I have it at the top of my email, and I'll take care of it. I'm like, all right, cool. And so he starts to walk away, and he goes, I'm not going to use her name, but he asks where my executive administrator is, like my secretary, right?
Understood.
And I go, she's at a doctor's appointment. Why? What's up? And he very unnaturally gets irate about it. Not like screaming and yelling, but is visibly pissed off and starts to be like, he looks at me and almost like that dad sort of her performance is terrible. I can't believe because she's at these dang appointments. And I interrupt him and I go, hey man, it's a medical thing and we're not going to violate EO laws. That's not a thing. I'm her supervisor. I approved it. She'll be back in an hour. And he continued, oh, that's it. At the next meeting, she's gone. And I'm like, no.
What they're doing is, and they do this sometimes in court, is they call it padding the case. He's basically padding his own case so he can justify the outcome, which is his outcome is to get rid of her. And I'm sure he's going to do the same thing to you.
Well, I thought that was weird too, right? I was on your line of thinking until much later down the road, and I learned something.
Oh, okay.
So, and I'll give me 1 second. I'll come right back to that.
Okay.
He leaves. He storms out of there because I interrupt him. I'm like, you're absolutely not doing this. This is EEO complaint all day long. That's not happening. She's a good employee. I supervise her. You don't. Time to go. So he leaves. He storms out, and I look at my captain, and I said, I'm going to be back, write a statement, and get it to me today. And he's like, gotcha. Literally just, what did you hear and say? That was it. And so she comes back an hour later. I sit her down, and I say, hey, I know you've been being harassed online, on social media, but this is what just took place. And I stopped it because I'm surely not going to get in trouble for this stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's my job is to supervise and lead. So I literally tell her everything that happens, and she just looks at me and she's like, Erik, I can't do this. I resign, and I'm like, okay, I get it, but I don't want you to. And so what I found out later, and I didn't know at the time, is Paul was contacted by the bank, and she was the only authorized signatory left in the department because the old board hadn't done this transition. And so the bank told him, hey, you've committed bank fraud, and our attorneys have now said, we are hard freezing the account until you come in and are put on bank signatories by somebody that's a bank signatory. And because she was at a medical appointment and she wasn't there for him to do that, he couldn't take her to the bank and be added as a bank signatory. So now the bank's telling me he's committed banking fraud. I didn't know that at the time. But what he did by his anger was harass somebody, and now she's quit. And we just lost our last bank signatory in the district.
You're not a bank signatory as chief? Fire chief?
No,
really?
No, that is the checks and balances, right? If
okay.
The fire chief then why is the board there? If the board does operational, why is the fire chief there, right? So
she was kind of if you're looking at it as a company, she was kind of like secretary and treasurer.
Yeah. So she did on a monthly basis or a daily basis really, but she would get invoices of bills. She would input and do all the QuickBooks stuff and print checks. Then she would give those checks to the board to sign. So she was the signatory for that purpose of QuickBooks access and all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he just lost that ability. And this is, again, May 30th. So to kind of speed along, we're really in an F situation. So he doesn't say this, though. He doesn't tell me. And I have no idea that now the bank has stepped in and has literally told him, you committed bank fraud. he continues his game and says nothing. On June 5th, June 5th and 6th become huge days in this. And June 5th, I start to get calls from like our vendors. So I think the first one was like our fuel. We would buy bulk fuel and put them in our tanks at the station. And then we would fill our trucks out of those. And so our bulk fuel delivery didn't happen. And they called and I said, hey, our payment got returned for non-payment. We can't deliver fuel. And I'm like, oh, crap. That's, and like 10 minutes later, another one called me for something. And I think it was like utilities or internet or something. And so there's emails back and forth where I'm like, hey, bills aren't getting paid. And he's playing dumb. He's like, oh, no, I approved these. I'll correct it. And so.
When in essence, he can't approve anything, he's being looked at for fraud.
Yeah, but nobody else knows that. The only person that knows it is him and maybe the other of the 5 on the board. So,
isn't it the bank's responsibility to let somebody know?
Well, you'd think, but in this case, I don't know. They would never have called me because I was never on a bank account. So they may have tried to call the administrative assistant's phone, who's now resigned and doesn't work there. I don't know what the bank's actions were, and I can't speak to that in this case. So, but yeah, it is what it is in this situation. It's kind of like just one of many problems happening. And then I get another complaint from one of my people, but this is like the most well-written one, and this is the person that would get the restraining order.
Okay.
But it very well detailed, the board has had 3 meetings and they're obsessed with the security footage and publicly stated that they're going to take the security cameras down and get rid of the system. I am a female that works in the station, often by myself, and kind of details having the security system is, if anything were to happen, my safety net. And while these people are also aggressively harassing and threatening us, to also want to dismantle, I feel very uncomfortable with that. And a couple other things that she had put in this complaint. So I get that. And I asked to speak with the attorney who has now been hired. So this guy, Jeff Erb, the board in their first week hires this guy to be the new attorney for the district. And I have now got a federal EEOC complaint that's been filed. And then I have probably half a dozen written complaints internally. And I'm trying, because we don't have an HR department, right?
Uh-huh.
The attorney is the HR. So I'm like, hey, I need to talk to the lawyer. And, what's the number to reach out to him? And he's like, oh, you can't. And so I call the attorney's office. I'm like, hey, I need to talk to the attorney about some personnel stuff. And he emails me back a day later. He's like, I've been advised I can't speak to you. And I'm like,
I mean, at this point, it would almost behoove you to get an attorney yourself.
Yeah, so man, you are. This is the next thing. I get an email from Alan Schultz, who is the board vice secretary, one of the 5, and it is his pro se response to the court injunction that was filed by the past board president. And I immediately open it and I'm like, hey, I'm not a party to this civil case. I should not be included in this. Trying to keep the separation of board and department, right? And within a minute, he responds again and he says, I've implicated you for multiple felonies and I've asked the court to prosecute you. So you need to read it. And I go, I remember just kind of laughing, right?
No, this is not a laughing matter. This is when you say, don't send me anything else. Don't speak to me again. Speak to my lawyer. I mean, whoo. But most public doesn't know. If you haven't worked in the legal field, you don't know. I mean, just you don't know a lot of your rights when you're stopped or when you're detained. Or most people don't know. They just don't know.
Lawyer, quick. So I read his pro se thing, man, and it's basically in his own interpretation of the law that because the election was captured on the security system, and then I accessed that and turned it over, that I need to be charged with election crimes and blah, 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 blah.
But so you accessed it from a public source that would have given it to anyone. The only thing I kind of shook my head at and was when you posted it on social media, because you never let your left hand know what your right hand's doing until you see the way things are going to unfold. But you were just trying to be transparent. But the thing is that you should be insulated, because you said anyone could go get the footage from this public building and just pay for it.
Yeah, and just to clear that up, like, I just posted that a few weeks ago, like 2 years later.
Oh, so you didn't post it when you got it?
No.
Okay, because that's the way I took it when you said it.
Yeah, no, this is very recently.
Okay,
I've only started sharing this story for like the last 2 weeks, maybe a month at most.
Okay.
And that's because of the court stuff. So I read his thing, I kind of laugh, and then I email Paul Del Toro, because in my contract as the fire chief, I have an indemnification clause that says the district will protect me if in the performance of my job, anybody makes any claims. Right?
I'm guessing you're not a union. There's no union. There's no. Okay.
No,
yeah, not in Colorado.
No. So this is like good faith. Okay. When the statutes are written, maybe they don't suspect people will be dirty like this. So I invoke that clause. Basically, I say, hey, I need to retain attorney. This is the name of the attorney I've talked to. This is the retainer. I need a check within the next, 72 hours per my contract. And he doesn't respond to that. Paul Del Toro doesn't. And the next day, is June 6th, and they are planning to have a special meeting, which would have been like their 8th special meeting in a week, or 2 weeks.
So can I ask a question? I just got a quick question to ask. The lawyer you retained, was he in the small town, or did you retain someone in like the town over?
No, he was up in Denver.
Okay, so you did think, okay, I don't need somebody that's in somebody else's pocket. I'm gonna get somebody that can come in and actually represent me.
Yeah, but I haven't retained him at this point in it, because I'm invoking it in my in my contract. So now the district is supposed to, pay.
And they won't even answer you.
Right. Well, and again, this is late afternoon. The next day, all hell breaks loose. And so, the board had scheduled a meeting where they were going to, their top agenda item was to negotiate the duties and responsibilities of the fire chief. And I immediately, as soon as they posted the agenda, said, no, we're not. My contract states that both of us in writing have to agree to enter into any negotiations. Given everything going on, I'm not going to do that. And I asked, do you take it off? And they didn't take it off. But what happens is that meeting is scheduled for 3 p.m. in the afternoon, which is a weird time to have a public meeting, mind you, because most people are at work. But at about 2:45, I get another phone call, and it's from the insurance company. And they say, hey, it's June 6th. You haven't paid your bill that was due June 1st. You're at risk of being canceled. And I go, I've had about enough of these calls. I say, you need to call Paul Del Toro and, explain the situation to him. So she does. She calls him. And I get a frantic call by all 5 board members on speakerphone that says, is our insurance canceled? I said, I don't know, but I just got a call saying that, it hasn't been paid. This is a $23,000 bill. Paul, you said you were going to take care of that. And again, nobody knows the banking situation except for these people on the phone with me. And he says, I'll call you back, but what does it mean if we don't have insurance? And I said, that means we can't respond to calls. We don't have work comp. We don't have vehicles. If, anything.
Oh my gosh. It just seems like there ought to be some sort in the bylaws written somewhere where there's, where when everybody was coming up with all this stuff, where they would have thought of, okay, we need some sort of safety valve. If everything goes to shit, we have this of it here that can, some sort of mechanism, some person that their only job is to step in, and there's some secret signator on the bank that can step in and save the day. I mean, I just can't believe that this all can happen like this, and nobody can do anything.
Well, you and me both, because like the entire time I'm waiting for some state entity, some county, level, somebody of a higher government to step in.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Here's the thing that I'm looking at. All right, we've talked about it being a company. All right, in order to be a company, you have to do certain things to keep the corporate veil around your corporation, because the corporation is separate. It's a separate entity. And if you don't keep your corporate veil, then you are liable personally. So it almost to me sounds like that the corporate veil is being pierced, and you're going to end up liable for something. I mean, I would start, if I were you in that position, I would have started feeling kind of backed against the wall. Hey, maybe I should resign too and follow my assistant out the door.
You know what? If I wasn't, so dedicated to being a first responder, that probably would have entered my mind. But this entire time, one, I've got 60 people I'm responsible for.
I understand. Right? I understand that. I can understand. You're the captain. If the ship is sinking, you're going down with the ship.
Right, and at the end of the day, the fire department, since the day it was started by Ben Franklin back in,
yeah.
and today, it is a no-fail mission. There is no day in the world that a fire department can say, we can't accomplish our mission, because that means people are hurt, right? People's houses.
People are dying. Yeah, people are losing their belongings. They're dying. I mean, that's not. That shouldn't even be feasible. That's why I'm saying I can't believe that this is even able to happen. Like what you're telling me sounds like a bad fiction book or movie where if I pick up a book to read and they haven't done their research very well, and I can tell where, the fiction, I shouldn't be able to tell where reality breaks and becomes, fiction. It should all go together. And this sounds like I would read it and say, oh, well, no, this couldn't happen. I don't want to read the rest of the book. I mean, this sounds incredibly crazy. Like it shouldn't even be able to happen.
I think that's why it has been hard to... I'm 2 years removed from this, and I think I was always trying to tell the whole story to everybody, and it's just too much, because it does sound like the next Hunger Games movie, right?
Yeah. You're going to have an elevator pitch, because it's an overload. I mean, it's just so much to try to, I've got a legal mind, and I have to soak in so much news on a day-to-day basis, because I do live streams on X. I'm all over the place. So, I've got to soak in a lot of what's going on and break it down and do deep dives and research things. But this is hard for a lot of people to take in. So I'm gonna try to break it up a little bit. So I see where the political corruption is. I see where the government overreach. We'll call them a part of a municipal government. I see where that is from what they've done with the bank. What I'd like to know, I see where the banking policy and federal law violations are. And I see where the broken justice system is because of the DA. They're just absent in this whole thing. And where's the police? And there's nothing going on in the courts at this point. Where is the constitutional violations?
Yeah, give me 2 more minutes. I'm going to get to how this all ends.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. I'm not trying to rush you, but I'm just this is a lot of details.
Yeah, and this is really where why
you could write a book about it. You ever thought about writing a book?
I haven't, because I've only started this. So 2 or 3 weeks now, I've been open about telling this story. For the last 2 years, I've been going through court. So, but yeah, basically, just to get back to it, it's we have to shut down the district. And,
oh my God.
Yeah. So literally, I get an email, and please go to my Justice for Holt page, guys, and these videos are on there with the actual emails. And so Paul emails me, and he says, because of the insurance, you have to shut down the district. And I'm like, oh my God. So I post a memorandum on social media and our website, like, we can't respond to calls. And me, you know, of course, like legacy media outlets start calling and all this stuff. What I didn't know in the moment, okay, so we ended up being not able to respond to call for 3 hours, 3.5 hours, almost 4.
And you get blamed. You get blamed for that.
Not initially. So,
okay.
So Paul Del Toro got a call, and he says within 11 minutes from the time he gets the call, that he called the bank where the district's funds are and was told, oh no, we changed the deal. You can't pay this bill, yada, yada, yada. Then hangs up with them, calls his personal bank, and wire transfers $23,000 to the insurance company in the span of 10 minutes, 11 minutes. Now, I don't know if you've ever called a bank, man, but I've never been able to call one in a 10-minute span of time, let alone set a wire transfer. So if his story is true, 2 amazing banks, right?
Well, I mean, a wire transfer, unless it's within the same bank, normally doesn't go directly through that quickly. I mean, some banks it'll go through quick, but normally it takes a few minutes to go through. So, I mean, that's kind of amazing, just the time frame you gave me.
Yeah, I'm stunned by it, and I don't believe it's true. So,
yeah.
So he wires from the time he gets the notification, you know, the insurance is going to be canceled, until he emails the insurance saying, here's the tracking confirmation number, the money's been wired, is 11 minutes. He waits an hour and 20 minutes later to call me and then says, shut down the district. So he's already paid it. An hour and a half goes by, and then he's the call to me that says we can't respond to calls.
Well, if the insurance is paid, why can't you respond to calls?
Yeah, there's some fishy stuff here, right?
Yeah, this is catch-22, I think.
Yeah, 3.5 hours after that, he emails me and says we can respond to calls again. So initially, the news came calling. Paul Del Toro admits, and it's on my social media pages, but he says, you know, due to the bank, that's where the root of this problem was. You know, we paid it. It didn't go through because the bank, you know, went back on its deal, yada, yada, yada. I'm the hero. I paid it from my personal bank account. We got it fixed. No harm done. That was the official, statement. Then the next, we kind of go into the weekend. I am scheduled to take vacation time to be off with my girls who just get out for summer. So vacation to me is that I won't be holding as many admin hours at the station during the day, but I still respond to all the calls. I still do all the training of my firefighters, all that stuff. I'm just not as accessible to the board, right?
Sounds like what my retirement's going to look like.
Yeah, I'm a workaholic. So I don't, that was me taking vacation. But immediately after, the board starts holding these secret executive sessions with the board and the attorney. And in Colorado statutes, if you're going to have a personnel meeting, we want to, talk about Erik Holt as the fire chief, you have to post that. You have to say that and you have to notify the employee. So they hold 3 of these meetings in that week I'm off, right? And then on June 21st, I get an email from Paul Del Toro, and it's an agenda. And the agenda says, executive session with the attorney, yada, yada, yada. And then it said, second executive session, evaluate the job performance and employment of Erik Holt as fire chief. So on the 5th meeting, they finally get this right, and they do it by the law. But then the next agenda item is evaluate the employment of Erik Holt. And then the next agenda item is hire an interim chief. So the writing's on the wall, right?
So how many times did they evaluate? How many? Because didn't you say it was in the 2nd one and the 5th one? And they did this several times.
Well, yeah, I mean, basically they post an agenda saying like, oh, we're going to have an executive session, we're going to fire him, and then we're going to hire somebody else.
But what I'm saying is you said when they posted it, they held a meeting. The second meeting was this. The fifth meeting was that. How many meetings did it take for them to decide what your performance was and that they were getting rid of you?
Well, they weren't supposed to be doing anything about my performance because they didn't follow the statute or notify me of that.
I understand that. I understood that. But, I mean, how many meetings did it take, even though they were not following what they were supposed to do?
Five secret meetings.
5 secret meetings. So it took them 5 secret meetings, and you said finally, on like the last 2 or something, they finally got it right.
The last one, yeah.
Finally on the last one. Okay, so it took them 5 times to get it right.
Yeah, and that wasn't by accident. Let's be clear. So I show up to this meeting, which is held June 22nd, 2023.
Okay.
And they are out for blood. They have a commercial popcorn machine there, which isn't at the station. They brought it in special for this. They're handing out lemonade. They're basically throwing a block party to fire me.
In front of everybody?
Oh, yeah. In a public meeting with media, they invited everybody.
And they're going to fire you in front of everybody?
Yep, 100%.
I mean, being that it's unjustified to start with, wouldn't that fall under defamation?
Well, we'll get to the court stuff. So, yeah, so I denied the executive session. It's a privilege of the employee, right? So they go, well, we're going to meet with you in private. And I said, no, like, all my firefighters are here. Whatever you got to say, I got nothing to hide. You know, like, you guys are already out to embarrass me. If I go into this meeting, you can say anything happened. But if you have to say it in public, maybe you won't. And so they go through this sort of pre-rehearsed thing where they blame me that the bill didn't get paid. They fired me for the insurance not being paid. And during this time, they had put together this investigation document to, try to pull from this and pull from that, it wasn't their fault. And the most standout thing that I share on my page is that, remember, Paul Del Toro came in on May 30th to sign that paper. In the investigation document, they put the blank form, not with his signature and date. So I immediately turned around and put, you signed this on May 30th. Here's your signature and the date. And oh, by the way, the policy says that I can't do that. The bylaws say that I can't do that. The bank says that I can't do that. And oh, by the way, you froze the bank accounts. But fire me, whatever. So I get terminated in front of everybody. Vicious, nasty people being fed popcorn and lemonade like it's a party in front of all of my firefighters.
Oh, absolutely, and we know what human nature is. Human nature is to we know what it is. So go ahead. Yep.
Yeah. So I finally retained an attorney out of my own pocket, and actually my firefighters and friends paid for that.
That's nice.
Within 2 days, 3 days, an envelope with $5,000 cash. I went to the attorney and filed a lawsuit. The major one is for protected speech and retaliation. And so for 2 years, I've been in a court battle in the District Court of Colorado, where they initially, they tried to have it thrown out, and that didn't work. They did get one thing dismissed, which comes up here in a minute, but that I couldn't sue them individually, I couldn't sue them for wrongful termination or breach of contract because of the Colorado Government Immunity Act, that it is free from tort. But I could continue my lawsuit for First Amendment protected speech. We went through all that, depositions, all this stuff. They filed for summary judgment saying that election administration was within the duties of the fire chief, and therefore, it should be dismissed. And Judge Wang, who's a Biden-appointed foreign-born judge, got to tell me, a U.S. citizen that served his country, that I don't have a First Amendment right. And she applied such a broad stroke saying that election administration and management of the security system fell within my duties. And so I've appealed to the 10th Circuit Court.
Okay, I don't want you to go into the 10th Circuit because there's no outcome yet, correct?
Correct. Nothing,
Okay, I do not want to do that because I want to save that, if you don't mind, for another episode.
100%. Yeah.
Once we have an outcome, because and this is just what I mean. I hope the 10th Circuit, rules on it, but more than likely, if they rule in your favor, they're going to appeal it to the Supreme Court. So it's probably going to the Supreme Court, more than likely. But which is. It's the Supreme Court, they got to decide to take it up, which hopefully they will, considering, it is a very hot topic, shall we say, right now.
Yeah.
I can't imagine them just taking it, laying down, even if the appellate court rules in your favor. I imagine them appealing it because they've got, the county's paying for it. So I want to wait and see what these outcomes are before we go into that. The liberal judges. This is why. This is why I always tell people, I do a lot across social media platforms. I do a lot on X, and I'll be putting this podcast on X. I'm monetized on X. I do a lot on X, and I always tell, people are like, and I don't affiliate with any political party because, I stopped believing in the Republican Party in April of 2024 when Mike Johnson, who was actually the representative of my district, and I have used to have a relationship with him, and have all his personal contact, and I actually got a campaign strategy to Trump through him. And when he was on the phone with him, talking about joining him on some Fox something, and I lost faith in that when him being a constitutional lawyer was a deciding tiebreaker vote for letting the FISA Act, letting the FISA Act, letting them do warrantless spying on Americans. And they wanted to amend it to where you had to get a warrant, which is abiding the Constitution. And him being a constitutional lawyer was taken in the back room by the intelligence agencies, and then comes out and he's all for, we got to go with the Constitution, and then he votes it down, and so they can do warrantless spying on Americans. I said, no. Every party's got an agenda. I will not be affiliated with any party because every party's got an agenda, and every party that I wouldn't do it then. But what I will say, and what I have told other people is they're like, well, the Republicans need to do to the Democrats what the Democrats did to Trump, and I said that can't happen, and it can't happen for something that you actually just spoke on, because the liberal judges will bend, if not some of them break the Constitution. But the conservative judges, they hold the Constitution above all. And if you're liberal and you bring a shoddy case to them, they're going to throw it out because it doesn't meet the Constitution. It doesn't meet the criteria of the Constitution to bring that case. And if you're a Republican and it doesn't meet the Constitution, you're going to throw it out. So there's no way to do to the liberals what the liberals did to the Republicans, because you can't take it in front of. If you take it in front of a liberal judge, if you take a liberal in front of a liberal judge, it's going to get thrown out. If you take a liberal in front of a Republican judge and it's a trumped up case, it's going to get thrown out. So you unfortunately dealt with a liberal judge who was willing to sit there and tell you that you don't have a First Amendment right. And that is absolutely ludicrous. I did a whole live stream on that a while back when Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris and what's the governor of Minnesota? Anyway, all of them were talking about the First Amendment was a privilege and not a right. I did a whole live stream on that.
Oh, I have to go listen to that. If you would let me, I will tell them the premise of my appeal.
Absolutely. Yeah. Go ahead. I've got a cut. I've got several. A few more few more questions for you. But yeah, go ahead. I'm not by no means am I cutting you off.
Yeah, so my premise is that in Lane versus Franks, which is I think the 11th anniversary just happened of that, so it's the most recent major Supreme Court ruling on protected speech and employment.
Okay.
But Lane versus Franks held that any protected or any speech that is of great public interest that is given under oath or subpoena is protected speech. And so I have that in my favor. But also the judge's ruling saying that it was an election administration function of my job actually goes against state statute. So how can that be? How can a judge, like, the state statute completely 100% says that election administration is a board governance responsibility. So how can she hold that? And then she cited saying that because I was able to access the security system that I managed it, therefore my access to that was within the duties and responsibilities of our fire chief. And I've countered with, then why would the board hire a third party under a contract to handle that? Because it's not in the normal knowledge base of a duty of a firefighter or a fire chief. That's why they had a contract.
Well, let me ask you this, and I mean, to me, this is the root of it. I mean, why should they have been able to do anything when the root of them even being there is they violated Colorado statute and seized power, so they were an unlegitimate board. They didn't even have any power.
Yeah, how could they have even taken the action against me? There's a lot of layers to that, man.
How could they even have taken the action of anything? You know, they committed. You know, it seems to me they should be being criminally charged right now, and that should bolster your case. I don't understand any of it. I mean, this just seems like, you know. I mean, this seems like it almost seems like. The attorney ought to be calling the U.S. Attorney of Colorado and having federal charges brought down on them. Because obviously, state's not going to work because somebody knows somebody. But I'm sure they have violated federal policy, and they're not going to buy their way out of that, or they're not going to, small town their way out of that.
And that's exactly why I'm talking about this now, is because I have followed every official channel that I could and stayed quiet because they don't like you talking about stuff they're investigating, and nothing has happened. And so the only way for me to break out of the state and out of that county and I please, to your listeners, share this story so that maybe somebody like Cash Patel can hear this, or somebody in that office at the FBI and says, hey, hold on, go talk to this guy, because I have had no success doing that. And that's why I made the decision to talk about it.
Your story is so touching that I think it's a little unrealistic for Cash Patel. Now, I did have a post that hit 6 million views on X a little while back, but it was a political thing during the election. But I may reach out and see what I can do. And just send a letter to the U.S. Attorney for Colorado, maybe even because once I write it up, and I'm a pretty good writer, especially when it comes to legal stuff. Once I write it up, all I'd have to do is just copy and paste it, and I can kind of do what I call the shotgun effect and send it out to the local field office, the U.S. Attorney, Assistant U.S. Attorney, the FBI there, Colorado, the district office, and just shotgun them and try to see if that does anything, and just let them know that there's a lot of eyes, and there's a lot of eyes on them right now.
And I would love that support. And let me tell you, let me breeze over the failures of people doing their job in this for me. I mentioned the DA's office. I turned over all that in good faith that they were law enforcement and their job was to prosecute this. They did one interview of the opposing party, and the interview question that they asked was, "Who's this lady you're telling the names of who to vote for?" And he goes, "Oh, that's my girlfriend." And they said, "Oh, well, the Constitution protects that she wouldn't have to testify." So we have found that election irregularities happened. I have the DA investigation, all of the files for it, but they closed recommending that there be no prosecution. And the guy that made that decision's name is Andy Vaughn, Deputy District Attorney for El Paso County, Colorado.
What I'm going to do is once we finish with the show, I'm gonna send you just a list of information that I want you to forward to me. I'm gonna also send you my personal email, and then I can use that information and compile it into a comprehensive letter. And obviously, before I send the letter, I will send you a copy, and you can okay it or help me. If you got something to add to it that I left out or anything like that. I'm not going to say I'll get it done. I probably will get it done this week, but I don't like to. I like to under promise and over deliver. I don't like to over promise and under deliver. I probably will, but I'm going to say it's going to take me 2 weeks. I'd like to have it done this week, but like I said, I'm going to say it's going to take me 2. But I'm going to send, within the next day, I'm going to send you a list of stuff that I'm going to need the next day. I'll say 2 days, probably be the next day. And you can send it to me. Like I say, I'm going to give you my personal email, and I'm going to see what I can do. I'm not going to make any promises, but I can usually write some pretty convincing stuff, especially when I put when I put behind it the amount of publicity that the Patriot Party movement actually has. It usually moves things. I'll put it that way. It's moved some very large companies in the not so distant past. So I can't imagine with your kind of story that they're going to want that kind of publicity, because if they don't take it, then I'm sure the media will, and they're not going to want that. They're not going to want that. So we'll exchange all that after we're done with the interview. I've got a question for you. I did some research. Now I'm going to have to go back and do a little bit and change it just a little bit, but I don't think it's going to change much of the outcome. The only thing was, I thought you were a signator on the bank, but I still don't think it's going to change a lot of the outcome. So I looked up some federal statutes. I like to cross my T's and dot my I's before I talk to someone, before I go to a meeting. I like to really dig in. And so today or this morning, I did some research. I'm not even going to get into the constitutional violations and issues, because your attorneys will do that. But I did some research, and I want to know: are you suing the bank?
I haven't got to that yet. So my initial actions were, I filed a complaint to the Federal Reserve about the situation, and I got a letter back months later that said it's not within our jurisdiction. That would have to go through, this bank or blah, blah, blah. And so that was a dead end. And really what happened is I just got beat down by people.
Okay. Before you go on any more, because that's that you're going up against, that's like dealing with the IRS or dealing with any other. They're not really a government entity, but they are. They're kind of attached to the government, but they're not. I did a bunch of research, and I've got it. And like I said, I'm going to have to go through and just change a little, critique it a little bit, and go back and see what that changes. But it's not going to change the violations that the bank that the bank made. It's not going to change them breaking consumer protection laws. It's not going to change any of that stuff. They violated a lot of their own policies by allowing someone who was not a signature or had some kind of court order to come in and have an account frozen. They violated a lot of stuff. There were some constitutional violations in there as well. I don't have it in front of me. I didn't print it out because it was so tedious that I figured I'd put my listeners to sleep. But what I did want to offer to you is, and I'm going to go back through and just change when I do my deep dives. I'm going to redo it. And I'm going to change the fact that you weren't a signature and see what comes up. Now, like I said, there's a laundry list of violations, policy violations that the bank did. There are federal laws that they broke. And, I'm going to come up with, if you want me to, I'm going to come up with all the stuff that they broke and all the stuff that you can sue them for, if you'd like me to. And you can pass that on to your lawyers, see what they think, and do what you will with it. If you'd like me to do that. I enjoy it.
So here, let me give you this. Is I hired an attorney, and I sold my house in Colorado, and I took $100,000 and I handed it to him in a wire transfer.
Okay.
And now I owe him another $50,000.
Okay.
When summary judgment came, I called him and I said, let's pursue this. He said, you got to pay me $50,000 up front and $4,000 a month. And I can't do that. So I am pro se in the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals now.
Oh, God.
Forever going forward, because I owe $50,000. I'm a blue collar guy, right?
No, I understand. I was going to ask you what you were doing for. I figured that was kind of personal, and I didn't want you to, on the air have to say, any kind of personal information you didn't want to talk about. But when I was reading about, you paying $150, I'm thinking, wow, you must have done well. Okay. So,
no, I have fought this towards. I'm doing well in life. Like I have a good job now, but like
you don't have that kind of money. I understand that. That's okay. So I don't have a ton of time because I have a couple of businesses and I do a lot with social media. And I'm handling my daughter's social media, building her, up to, so she's hopefully monetized in high school. And I'm probably getting ready to help her and do her jiu-jitsu instructor. We're supposed to be sitting down and coming up with an agreement. And the guy that owns a hardware store wanted him to talk to me about it, but it's not even something that I really even pursued, is building people's social media. It's not something that I wanted really to do, but these people are nice and do things for me. So, it's, hey, if I can do it, if I can fit it in. But I am pretty proficient when it comes to legal stuff. I hate the pro se thing because a lot of times they get rubber stamped. Mm-hmm. So I almost wonder if you could find an attorney and I don't know if one would do it, if you had a friend that was friends with an attorney, and see a federal attorney. It's when and I don't know if it's the same in. Well, it should be the same because it's like this in North Carolina. I'm from North Carolina. I moved to Louisiana. In North Carolina, when you get your when you pass the bar, you get your North Carolina law license. You have to pay a fee, and you can practice federal law. So a lot of state attorneys. They decide not to practice federal law, but they can. Well, what would be nice is if we could do the motions and then they would file them so it looked like they were coming from an attorney. They could overread it, pay them a couple of $100. You look it over, see how it looks to you, and then file it. So, because if you file it pro se, it's going to get rubber stamped. There's not very many. I've seen it too often. There's not very many people that can file motions in federal court where they look at it and say, oh, this is another pro se. Because you got to remember how many people in prison and everywhere else that are filing their own motions, and they're all getting rubber stamped. Very few actually make it through. So,
I mean, right now, I'm hoping by doing this, maybe one of your listeners knows somebody, or you know.
Well, I mean, I'm going to also try to put you out on X, and see what I can put. I mean, I'm a member of a lot of different groups, even though I've kind of broken with some of the stuff that Trump's doing. I'm still a member of all the MAGA groups. So I'm gonna try to get you out there as much as possible. I'm gonna try to get some kind of campaign together for you. I'm gonna give that some thought and let it resonate. Yeah, I come up. I work out a lot. I do bodybuilding, so I come up with some of my best ideas at 5:00 in the morning at the gym. So I'm gonna really let it resonate and try to figure out some sort of campaign, some sort of social media campaign I can do to help you along the way. And once I look at what you've got going on, then I can try to piece together, something to go with it, and try to help you with mine. And maybe we can even hit up some really big influencers and see what's going on. So
I really appreciate that, and I've got the GoFundMe too. That's
well. I mean, I'm gonna attach anything I can. So what I'm gonna do for the listeners is, if they haven't been able to tell that you have, what all social media do you have? We're gonna post it too. So all y'all out there listening, if you just click on the description of the podcast, you'll be able to click on the links of, and I'm actually going to leave out my social media links for this podcast. So you'll be able to click on the links. I'm exclusively going to put on Mr. Holder's links, so you can so you won't get confused and you won't click and get tired of it. You can just specifically go to his links. I'm going to leave out mine off the description for this podcast. So we'll put all his links and social medias on the description. And as I told you, I'm also going to try to come up with some sort of social media campaign where I'll try to put your links and get them out there as far as I can. So I am going to do that for you as well. I've got a couple more questions for you, and they're just going to lead into, depending on the answer, they're a little off topic here. I prepared this interview, didn't quite know the way it was going to go. We've kind of gone off script a little bit, but you've really kind of touched on my heartstrings. I really think that you've been done wrong, and I don't like that. I don't like when people are done wrong by the system. It really gets under my skin. So let me just go through these. I came up with them this morning. So they're a little generic, but so I know that you mentioned on your portfolio that you are a patriot, a defender of democracy, the Constitution, and our rights. Obviously, from this video, people should know, but these are powerful words. In your own words, what do they mean to you?
Yeah, I can sum that up pretty quick. Like I said, I'm a dad, so I look at everything as a father in raising the next generation of patriots in this country. And so I have to be a fervent example of that to my two daughters who are going to enter the world in scary times. And I've been fed, these woke beliefs their entire childhood. So in order to be an example for that, I have to stand on something, and I have to stand on that firmly. And that has guided me this entire time, and why I continue to fight this. Because if I lose my case, if I give up my case, that's one more chink out of the Constitution that they are not going to be able to live under the protection of. And our founding fathers had a vision for this country. We've lived it for over 200 years, and we need to defend it. Every one of us has the responsibility to do that. And, my girls are what motivates me to continue that and to ensure that they turn out to be the most productive, patriotic citizens of this country for the next generation.
Okay. Well, before I even get to the next statement, I want to say this. I have to say this. Just know, because our justice system is broken. And in a lot of ways, it's for the powerful, it's just us. It's not justice. Mm-hmm. And know that no matter what the outcome of the case is, your daughters, you will have taught them an invaluable lesson. You will have taught them to never give up, to fight for your beliefs, because if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So don't just get caught up in, I've got to win for my daughters to show them that, don't get caught up in the winning. It's showing that you never give up, that you do your best, that you always do your best. That's the lesson here, that you always do your best. It's the same lesson with my daughter when she goes in the ring. It's, even champions get beat sometimes, even world MMA champions. But as long as you always do your best, you can hold your head up high. So I just, I heard what you said, and you're talking about winning, and I hope you do, and I hope I can help you. And even if you don't win the court case, but we can get them in handcuffs in federal prison, that's winning. Even if we can expose them, that's winning. There are so many different avenues of winning. I just don't want you to get caught up in, I've got to win this court case or I've been defeated, because that's not the lesson for your daughters here. It's the fact that there's no quit. There's no give in you. You are standing for what you believe in, and you will not stop for anything, until it's done, until you've done everything you can do. And I just had to get that off my chest to you, because I don't want you to get too caught up in winning and think, well, if I lose, oh my God, it's all been for nothing, because it hasn't. It's been a very valuable lesson to everybody that you've been an example for, that has heard your story, that you've reached out to, that have listened. Everybody, you have been an example of, hey, you know what? Not only am I a patriot, but you don't judge a man by when he gets knocked down. You judge him by what he does once he gets up. And you got up and you said, hey, I might be the little guy, but you know what? I'm going to do everything I can to take down the big guy that knocked me down. So I just want you to know that. And I had to say that, because don't get too caught up in winning. That's not the real point here.
No, you're right. And those two girls are the win. Them becoming responsible, patriotic Americans when they become adults. That's the win.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Them becoming good people, which are becoming fewer and fewer, because, and I always say this, there'll be posts, well, why are these kids turning out like this? And it's sad to say it's because they're being raised by social media and video games and peer pressure. But and I'm lucky, because most of my business, all my business is here at the house, so I get to spend a lot of time with my daughter. But the thing is that it's so expensive to live now that most parents have to have 2-3 jobs, and they can't spend time with their kids or raising their kids. So, it is the parents' fault, but it's kind of situational as well. So let me get back to this question. So anyway, so you gave me a good answer on, the patriot, the defender of democracy, how you view it as a parent. Do you feel like the current administration embodies those powerful words?
I think the best interest of this administration is the American people, and I do believe that. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that a lot of the hidden dark secrets of our government are not the way of this administration, and I think that's a strong message. America first, and how do we protect Americans? Right? You see that with all the immigration stuff going on. Like, we are going to get back to our citizens first, and to do that, we got to get back to what we are founded on. So I do believe that.
Okay. All right. We're definitely going to have another episode where we discuss this and maybe do a little debating on this, because I'll be honest, I was I was rooting so hard for Trump. And I did so many live streams. I was helping him campaign. I came up with a campaign strategy. And he actually used it. I got it to him through Mike Johnson before Mike Johnson did what he did on April of 2024, and I completely was turned off to him. And he actually used campaign strategy, and I defended him. And I think he started out wonderful the first couple of months, and I just think the last 6 to 8 weeks he has gone off the rails. But that is too much information to go over on this specific segment. I think he started off great, with everything that he was elected to do, and then I just think he has gone off the rails. But we will definitely have to come back and do another segment, because I would definitely like to hear your opinion on some of the stuff and run some of the stuff by you. Because like I said, I've done some real deep dives on some of the stuff that he's done and broken it down into constitutional violations and all that kind of stuff. Because I am, America first. It doesn't have to be America only, but it's got to be America first. And you got to follow the Constitution. We may not like it all the time. It's not gonna be on our side all the time, but you got to follow it. That's what makes it great, because it's equal for everyone. And like I said, I don't. Once Mike Johnson did that, I said I'm not going to affiliate with any parties. But I'd like to discuss some stuff with you. But I'm not set up to do that right now. But I would like to definitely bring you back. And we can either come back and do a show on just that, and then come back and do a show on how your court stuff is going, because once you get up in the appellate court, and if you have to go to the Supreme Court, that stuff can take years. So we might want to do a show and then do another show once we start getting some action in the courts.
That'd be fun. I try to stay naive on what the bigger schemes are. I feel the same, and I hope that, we come back. I hope this is a strategy, some of this stuff happening, to cloak and dagger what the true intentions are. But, it could go both ways. And, we'll get back to
We'll talk about it later. I think we could have a really good discussion on it. I think that you could add some maybe add some insight or some views that I haven't thought of, and I know that I can put some information out there that I've had to deep dive for. Really dig deep. When I deep dive, I use a liberal AI, a conservative AI, and a web crawler. So I don't take news stories at face value. I push them through all that stuff to get the real story, and then also not just to get the real story, but then to also break down, sometimes I have to shorten it because it's so much information, to actually break down and dig into the story, not just some little short segment, but actually what does that segment mean? What does it mean when it says this? What does it mean? What kind of violations are there? What kind of, what does it mean? So, I think it would be fun. I definitely want to have you back. And definitely want to stay up to date. I'm sure I will, because I'm going to try to take part in helping you some with your legal stuff. And I have absolutely enjoyed this segment. Is there anything that you want to leave the guest with before we end this interview?
Yeah, I mean, please just support, guys. Like I said, I'm supporting two daughters. One is just graduated high school. One's going into high school next year. I still have to work for paychecks and pay bills, and I hope everybody sees the greater picture in this. It's not just some random guy fighting some minuscule thing. This is a big fight. This is the departure of what we were all founded on, and we get to a point where you've got judicial overreach and activism happening, and I feel like I'm being not a victim to that, but in the mix of it, because one of our most important guaranteed rights is freedom and protected speech. So please like, share, comment, come follow my pages, Justice for Holt. Please watch the videos. I mean, I'm literally not a guy telling a story. I'm showing the documents. I do have a couple segments where I just kind of try to give the insight of what I was thinking and how I felt about things. But for the most part, all of my videos are day by day. This email, it's straight from the source. It's screenshots of it. Nothing's altered. So if you are moved by the story, if you want to see these things not happening in our country, please support me. The GoFundMe is set up so I can continue the legal battle. I'm not out vacationing on that or anything of that nature. So I appreciate everybody for spending the time to listen. Please go to the pages and please help kind of this grassroots movement to bring attention to it. And if you know somebody that's in the justice system or law enforcement, and you can share this with them and get more eyes on it, it all goes to the greater good.
Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing that story, and we look forward to having you back on the Patriot Party. Before I close this out, I want to offer a really quick apology. So throughout the interview, at about 15-minute intervals or 10-minute intervals, there's a little teeny beep, and I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, what in the world? Is this a software glitch? Is this an issue with my software? What's going on? And then finally near the end, I figured it out. My fiance left her Mac laptop in my studio and is connected to her phone, and she's on call. So every time she got a call, it pinged. And that's what we're hearing in the interview. So I do apologize. It's not loud and it's not too often. And I hope it wasn't too aggravating for y'all. But I wanted to let y'all know what it was, because it was aggravating me, because I thought it was something going on, like a software glitch or something. Anyway, this episode has just reinforced what a lot of us already knew. The government is crooked. The banks and financial institutes are crooked. The justice system is broken. And it doesn't matter if you commit a life to public service. If it's in their best interest, a politician will screw you in a heartbeat. If you enjoyed this content, please follow and share this podcast. Also, check out Mr. Holt's social media pages and links that are provided in the description. And if you can help, please help. Now, to all you guys and gals, thank you so much for listening. Stay safe, and I'll catch you same time, same place. Well, I actually have to go back on that, because this is a special release, because it is a special edition episode of the Patriot Party, where we did our very first interview. Our very first of hopefully many. We're going to try to start doing them, and when we do them, we're known for our unbiased Saturday morning drops with a conservative perspective. We're still going to do that this week. But when we do our interviews, we're going to drop them as we do them as a special release. Hopefully we can kind of get in the hang of doing them, or in the repetition, or in the habit of doing them on Thursdays. But when it happens, it happens, and I'm going to try to get it to you, as a live interview. So it just so happened that it happened this time this week, and we're going to start bringing in experts in certain things that we report on. We might bring in finance experts. We might bring in tech experts, political experts. We're going to try to start bringing in everything that we go over with the Patriot Party that can really help you all out. Might bring in legal experts to help, you navigate what your rights are if you have a run-in with law enforcement. So I've got a lot of ideas. And we're going to start bringing in some experts and doing some interviews. And those are going to be above and beyond the once a week thing. So I guess I can't really say see y'all same time, same place. That only pertains to the Saturday morning show that we normally do. So I will see y'all, or check y'all out, on Saturday morning, which is only a couple days away. We're near the end of the week.